you got a really deep tight end room this year.
Yeah.
How's it just been throughout camp so far?
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. You know, we had a good group of guys. It's really my first year having returning starters with Shimon and Hart coming back. Obviously, Colson's been in the room. And then mixing in, Kamari Anderson out of the portal, who's been a tremendous addition. And obviously then the young buck, AJ coming in, has done an awesome job. So it's a really good room. It's really deep and talented. We've got good leadership at the top. And it's fun now to see us being in 12, 13, multiple tight end sets on base downs, not just in short yardage goal line situations.
I was going to say the tight ends, like just how talented they are. It allows you to kind of like stick AJ out in the slot if you really wanted to. But what's it like just having those returners? Does it kind of make your job a little bit easier of like knowing that they know the base level and you can kind of take a deep dive on more schematic and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's been good because when you have that returning experience, those guys can really help the young guys catch up to speed. And then we can, with the guys that know the system, that have a year under their belt, kind of take it to the next level. So I think it's been good. That's that balance of like growing our scheme and what we're doing with tight ends, but also catching up the new guys and the young guys. So I think we've balanced that well. A lot of that goes to Coach Arroyo on how he installs and how we kind of slowly. It's like a slow burn where we just kind of keep adding and keep building on our base system.
Feels like there's like a 1A, 1B, 1C type of thing going on with the tight ends. How is just the overall competitiveness between all of them really helped raise their overall level of gameplay? Yeah,
it's been really good. I mean, obviously knowing Shimon coming back as an all-conference tight end, really cemented himself. Really was excited about the competition between, Harp and Kamari. All those guys have done is both elevate each other to a situation where it's really one or the other. When you talk about when we're in 12, it depends on the call. It could be Shimon and Harp. It could be Shimon and Kamari. It could be Harp and Kamari, right? So I think those three guys, like you said, are really, we can play them all. We can play them all in different situations. They all complement each other. They all do different things really well. So I'm really happy with that. And then obviously, AJ's ability to stretch the field vertically with his size, his ball skills and things like that. It's been fun to kind of build in some package stuff for him as well.
How do you feel like you guys have progressed in your guys' blocking? I know Kat, obviously the receiving ability, we saw it last year with Shimon. Harper was kind of that really big blocking tight end, but how do you feel like all of them are kind of progressing? Yeah, I mean,
we talk about it all the time. That's our identity. Our identity is it's physicality. And what we do without the ball in our hands is kind of that's how we dictate what kind of practice we had, what kind of game we had. The ball is going to find us. We'll make plays when we get the chance to, but we don't walk away from practice with our head up or down based on how many touches we had. It's really more about what we do. Coming off the ball in the run game, in protections, blocking on the perimeter, and I feel like our guys have bought into that. I think that's Shimon's edge. He's the leader of our room. That's going to be the skill set that allows him to play on Sundays. And I think that influence on the rest of our team has made all those other guys better. Kamari's a dynamic route runner. Getting him to buy in to the physical aspect of the position and being a dominant first-level blocker and being able to handle defensive ends one-on-one, only going to elevate his game. And so I feel like we've embraced that as a room. Our guys understand that. And then you don't sit back and worry about how many times you touch the ball because you can elevate your stock as a player in this system and for the next level based on what you do without the rock.
You talk about Shimon being a Sunday type player, being the leader of the team. How great of a job on him and the other older guys that mentoring a guy like AJ?
Yeah, I think Shimon's done a fantastic job. He's a guy that kind of like behind the scenes. He's not a raw leader, but he's a guy that picks up the phone and calls guys, call AJ, check in on him, bring Kamari in and watch film and do stuff. So he's been a guy that behind the scenes has done a great job. Cameron Harpel too. Harps is a really unselfish leader. Both those guys are really unselfish. They're not me guys. They're not trying to keep the other guys down to elevate themselves. Like they understand that like everybody's better when the room is better, and so they've done a great job with the young guys. And not counting Kamari as a young guy, even though he just turned 20, but bringing that guy up to speed and putting their arms around him and loving him up and making him feel part of this and helping him rather than trying to hinder him. And that's just more about their character. And we've got an awesome room, like just not just the talent, because it's easy to come out here and watch them and go, oh, that's a great tight end room, but I see it more so from like in the room and what kind of kids we have, what kind of people we have. They're what we're about. Being a good person, doing the right things. Like those guys are doing that stuff.
Was the season opener just over 2 weeks away? How would you say your room and just the team in general have done a job of ramping up the intensity and getting prepared for it?
Well, you watched today. Like it's getting a little dirty in there. Like we're getting after a little bit, and the good thing is I keep reminding myself that the good news is that's our defense. Like sometimes it's like us versus them so much. And so you remind yourself, like, hey, those guys over there that are flying around, that are some badasses, those are our guys. And so I think we've done a good job of elevating the competition. We get after it. Like our competitive periods are competitive, and it gets chippy, and we got good players coming off the ball and trying to dominate, and there's days where we get the best of them, there's days they get the best of us, and it goes back and forth, and I think that's a sign of a good team. It's the back and forth battles and the competitiveness, and I don't think you'd have a physical competitive football team if you didn't scrap it up every once in a while.
I know you've only been on this staff for a few years, but you've been in Arizona football in general for quite some time.
Yeah.
What is it like just seeing? I know back in the early 2000s, ASU kind of had like a tight end youth thing going on. Do you feel like you guys are kind of bringing that back a little bit this year?
Yeah, we call it TEMP, right? That's our tight end kind of like mantra here. And yeah, I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to build the best tight end room in the conference, and I want to continue to add talent to it. I want to put pressure on Coach Arroyo and Coach Dillingham to play multiple tight ends because at the end of the day, a good play caller and good coach is going to put his best 11 players on the field. So I'm trying to make sure a couple of those guys are coming out of our room, and we're going to continue to build. We're excited about the future, not just what we have this year, but guys that will be returning next year, and guys that people don't talk about like Colson Aarons and James Giggy. The light bulb went off for Giggy 2 weeks ago. He had an awesome Camp T. He's continued to do that here. So just another guy that's a big, athletic, twitchy guy that's kind of a tweener, kind of just a big jumbo athlete when he came out of high school. Has started as a D tackle, and he's starting to figure it out. So we just want to continue to elevate the room and be able to give our play caller a lot of tools to get into his toolbox with and do some different creative things in different situations and on base downs.
How do you feel like your veterans in the room have kind of, I know you talked about their leadership, but how do you think they're teaching the younger guys about leadership so they can kind of come up and do the same for the guys that are going to come up?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a group like when your best players are your hardest workers, you usually have a good team and a good room. Our guys like our older guys, our veteran guys, when you look at Shimon and Harp and Kamari, those guys are grinders. Like Harp transformed his body this offseason, eating clean, training, taking care of his body. Kamari lives in the film room. He does everything right. He's one of the leaders of the FCA group. Like those guys are doing the little things right, and the young guys see that, and it's why AJ came in, and all of a sudden you look out your window and AJ's walking through on the turf field on his own time, and you see like when that's the standard, when the standard of the room is so high, you can't fit in unless you elevate to that standard. If you're not willing to elevate, you just kind of get lost in the shuffle.
What does just having the ability to get to 12 and 13 personnel do for this offense?
I mean, I think it really opens things up, and talk to our D coordinator, talk to B Ward. What it really does to a defensive coordinator and the calls and the amount of things that you can carry, it really shrinks it down. So, I think it's tough. It's a whole nother, game plan preparation for an opposing defense to think about. It takes time away from the stuff they really want to do. And it's a change of pace, and it's, our offense is built around running the ball physically and taking play action shots. And when you can put three tight ends in the field that can win one-on-one in the run game and also can stretch the field vertically, I think that creates a lot of mismatches. And it allows you to kind of get in and out of some different packages and do some things that put a lot of stress on the defense.
Let's talk about like tight ends catching the ball, but Shimon and Kamari like as blockers as well for athletes that they are. Like how impressive would be that?
Yeah, we never talk about catching balls. And like if you watch, the only time, like I never do any kind of pass catching indie. Like when I have any, we go do routes on air, they can catch balls. But anytime we have an indie, it's by design. We hang our hat on physicality. We hang our hat on how we impact the game without the ball. That's what I emphasize. That's what we show. And so I think the guys have bought into that. And with Shimon as our returning leader, that's his game. That's his edge. That's worn off on everybody else. And everybody else is elevated to that. And we have a great example of what it looks like to strike and climb at the first level and what it looks like to fit guys up on the perimeter and to fit guys up in pass pro. We have a great example of that. Our all-conference guy is a guy that does that at a really high level. So everybody else, I think, has elevated their game to match that level of physicality because that's our identity.
How's Kamari performed relative to kind of what you thought he might be?
Well, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we saw him early in the portal watching like thousands, countless guys. He was a little bit more under the radar, but we watched him and we looked at like what's the prototype for what fits in our room from a length, body type, twitch, athleticism. We're like, this guy really fits the prototype. He hasn't been put in a position to do a lot of it, so you don't have a lot of body of evidence. But then you start doing their due diligence and like, his high school head coach, I coached in the Army All-American game, would call him, talk to him, oh, he's a great kid. Then coaches that recruited my school that were at Kentucky, and you get to feel, oh man, he's an awesome kid, he's really good, we don't want to, so you start getting feedback, you're like, all right, I think we found something here. Arroyo right away, I showed Arroyo, he's like, oh yeah, like that's our guy. We moved him right to the top of the list. So we saw that, but it was a limited sample size. So he's far exceeded expectations, and I think not just as a player, more so as a kid. The kid is unbelievable, great kid. He embodies what we're about culturally in this program as far as working hard, being a good person, doing the right thing. He's like Coach Dillingham says, there's dividers and multipliers, and Kamari's a multiplier. He makes everybody better for the way he carries himself as a person, the way he works on and off the field.
Seems like Cameron just does everything well. Like he's just solid, reliable,
Yep.
and whatever you ask of him.
Yeah.
Like having that.
That's my guy. I mean, like as a coach, those guys are so invaluable, and they're so humble. They don't get in their feelings. He's competitive as all get out. He wants to be the guy. He shows up every day to be the guy. But he can do so many things for us. He's just that utility knife. He's the middle infielder that can play short, can play second. You can put him at third. If you lose somebody, he can put the gear on and go catch. It's like he just does everything well. He strains, he makes plays, and I think he's had a great fall camp. He had a great spring. I thought he took a huge step forward. I think he's continued that through fall camp. He's a weapon for us.
What about just the luxury of having AJE as a first guy? Because most places, a specimen like that would be needed to play a ton as a true freshman, and you don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah, it's great for AJ. Number one, because of who he is as a person and how he's been raised. He's coming in here. He's humble, and he's willing to learn, and he's willing to kind of pay his due and wait his time to be the guy. And he's got such a great example for how it's supposed to be done in front of him. It's elevated his game tremendously. From where he was at the beginning of spring to where he is now, he's come. It's night and day. He's still got a tremendously long way to go too to get to what he's capable of. That's a testament to his skill set and his talent, because his ceiling is so high. And so just on him every day, riding his ass. I talked to his dad yesterday. His dad's like, cuss him out whenever you need to. Like, that's how he was raised. And so he's very coachable. He doesn't take anything personal. You can jump on him, you can challenge him, and he responds. He never hangs his head, never feels sorry for himself. And so because of that and because of his talent, it's going to be fun to watch him mature, not just, into next season, but really through the course of this season. I think he's going to continue to get better and better. And there's definitely, there's some packages. There's a way to utilize him, and he's a problem. You get down in the red zone, and the way he stretches the field vertically in the seams, he's a problem for people. So it's going to be fun to see how we utilize him this first year.
You go back 20 years, and this was like tight end you emerging with Todd Heap and Zach Miller, and those guys are on the wall in your room. Do you talk about like the legacy and the history and like what's possible for this group and what you're trying to accomplish?
We don't compare ourselves to like the rooms of the past. We don't look at numbers. We don't look at who had how many catches and who had how many yards, because that's not really what our identity is. We just want to be one of the best rooms in this program, on this team. And we want to have the trust of the play caller that he can put multiple tight ends on the field, that we're going to do our job. I think that's really all we talk about, is just say, let's make it hard for them to not put multiple tight ends on the field. The other stuff will take care of itself. I don't think you can worry too much about that. But we do take pride in having a very talented room. I know our guys take pride in that. And a little bit of that too is the unselfishness of like, hey, we have a great room. We're going to play lots of guys. That's the unselfishness of the room too. Instead of Shimon being like, well, I'm an all-conference guy. I should be getting all the reps, and you guys should be, it's everybody together. Hey, we're all doing this. Let's make this hard for them to not get into 12 and 13.
Sure. But how much better do you feel now versus the group that you inherited a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, just night and day difference. And like, brand new system, brand new culture. Really, this is the first time being in year 2 of a system. And so just from that standpoint, having returning guys that played a lot of snaps, that know the system, that have experience, that allow us to elevate and grow the system, and also bring the other guys up to speed because we have that returning experience. It's been huge. It's a lot easier. I would say it's easier, but it's exciting too, because we can build and grow more than we could. Where before it was like, hey, we kind of got to slow this thing down to get everybody up to speed. Now we're kind of full steam ahead.
Great, man. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.